I'm going to read one verse tonight and give you a very simple and yet I hope meaningful thought out of this passage. A very topical message tonight, and that I want us to look at and see. So Isaiah chapter 41 and verse number 13. Isaiah 41 and verse number 13. All right. Our Bible says, "For I, the Lord thy God, will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, Fear not, I will help thee." And when we consider who he's talking to here, it sheds some light on what's happening. And he's talking to Jacob. And of course, Jacob is going to become Israel. And he is going to change his name. And that process is going to take place. But if there's anybody that didn't deserve what they were getting, it's Jacob. Jacob's been a trickster. He has, deceived his brother out of his birthright and all these things that Jacob has done in his life. And it just reminds me, and this has really not a lot to do with the message tonight, but it just reminds me that even though I don't deserve it, and even though I haven't earned it or merited it with anything that I have done or accomplished, it is that God is still interested in me. And he still has a concern and a care for me. And I could stand up here tonight and we could spend hours not talking about things that I've done right, but talking about things that I've done wrong since I've been saved, and reasons that God should have written me off and smoked me out and been done with me. And yet, in his long suffering and in his grace, he has chosen to still want to fellowship with me. And in that, he tells Jacob, he said, "For I, the Lord thy God, will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, Fear not, I will help thee." We were at Mike Martin's in camp meeting this past, 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. And I don't even remember the name of the song. Some of you from this one line may pick up on it. But somebody was singing a song, and I'm pretty sure it was there that I heard it. And the line of the song mentioned walking hand in hand with Jesus. And I don't know, I know I'd heard the song many times before, but that one line hit me, and I couldn't get away from it for several days. And in my Bible reading and in my devotions, all I could think about was that kind of relationship with Christ, and picturing literally being able to hold hands with the Lord. I know Psalm in chapter number 2, I believe it is the last verse of Psalm 2. It literally says, "Kiss the Son," and it's the S-O-N, and it says there, and I heard brother, I believe it maybe Brother Piercy, I don't know, years ago, that preached a message on Kiss the Son. And as he stood and preached, and he said, I was in my morning devotions, and literally he said, I read that, and he said, I thought for a minute, and he said, I don't know. He said, I just felt like I needed to blow the Lord a kiss. And he said, I looked toward the heavens, and I blew him a kiss. He said, and at first I didn't think nothing about it. He said, then the Spirit of God began to move in that room we were sitting in, and the Holy Ghost began to shine on that. And he said, just in that sense of recognizing and realizing that we have that kind of relationship with the Lord, that we have that kind of companionship, that kind of love with Him. And this is where my mind went whenever I heard that song and that line, and I couldn't get away from it. It was that we have that kind of relationship with the Lord. And if we don't, we're missing out. It is such a real relationship and such a close relationship that just as your kids or your grandkids, when they're coming up and you taught them how to blow a kiss and to show that compassion and to show that love, it's that kind of relationship. And here he is saying, I will hold thy right hand. And I began to think about just holding hands with Jesus. I told just a simple thought tonight, very topical, even in the context of what we're dealing with. But I thought about the purpose and the reasoning behind why we even hold hands. I mean, and my first thought is probably kind of like yours. I mean, you go back and my first thought was holding hands with my wife. That was my first thought. Y'all didn't find that funny. I was getting ready to say something else, and so I had to time out. That's my first thought. But, you remember when you were a teenager, and that was the cool thing to do, and it was a sense of that companionship and that bond there, and it was sort of taking a relationship to another level. And here, we see that. Now, me and my wife riding down the road, I'll reach over and grab her hand, or she'll reach over and grab my hand if it's sitting up on the console or something, and it's just that companionship. Walking through a store, you reach over and you grab her hand, or she grabs your hand, and it's just that sense of being together. I don't know, that there's something about, you can be side by side and you can be next to each other, but there's something about that physical touch. And that's why, we try to teach and preach that it needs to be refrained from whenever there's not a marriage there. And so why? Because it does take things to a different level. Now, because I know it's become such common practice that we don't make a big deal out of it anymore, and we got little kids, that aren't even old enough to be thinking about a boyfriend and girlfriend that are holding hands these days. But the reality is it does push things to another level. And so whenever we see that and that companionship that is taking place, it's signifying something, that there's something more there than just an acquaintance. There's something more there than just that I know them. Whenever you see two people walking together and they're holding hands, you automatically assume that there is an intimate relationship between the two. You recognize that and you see that and you begin to understand that they belong together. They are a pair. When was the last time somebody's been able to look at us and realize that we belong to Jesus? That we've had such a relationship with Him that we've literally been holding hands with Jesus to the point that people's able to look at us and say, they're a pair. They're connected. They belong to each other. Our lives ought to be so intertwined with the Word of God and with the things of God and with the Lord that that's exactly what it appears. That's exactly how it looks. It ought not be that people have to question and wonder and decipher and try to figure out where we stand and whether or not we believe in God or whether or not we go to church or whether or not we're a Christian. Our relationship with the Lord ought to be so real and ought to be so direct, and it ought to be so pointed that people see it and understand that there is a connection, that there is a pair, that there is that companionship. And so we walk around and we show that. There's just something, I don't know. Maybe y'all don't, it ain't this way around your house. But I'm just being honest tonight without trying to get too in detail. It does something for me when my wife reaches across the car and grabs my hand. It makes me feel loved. It makes me feel like she's still interested. It makes me feel like she still cares. And it's not much. And it's not that she said anything. And it's not that she's made a big gesture about it. It's just simply that she's reached over and put her hand in mine. And it shows a sense of companionship that we are together. Are you holding hands with Jesus tonight? Are you holding hands with the Lord? You hold hands for companionship. You hold hands for comfort. Going through a difficult time, something, hard. It's inevitable that you want somebody to reach out and say, I'm here. You want somebody to hug you. You want somebody to tell you. And usually that's an embrace, or it's, reaching out and holding hands, and just for comfort. I thought about, whenever my kids were growing up and we'd be, in a crowded area or something, I'd reach over and grab their hand, and it was just for the comfort of me knowing that they're there. It didn't have any other reason. I don't know what it did for them, but I know what it did for me. It was the sense that I knew that they were there, and that provided me a sense of comfort, that I didn't have to keep my eyes on them, and I didn't have to be looking at them constantly, and I didn't have to see them physically, the whole time. I could do what I needed to do and be paying attention to my surroundings or shopping or whatever I'm doing, as long as I had a hold of their hand, because it provided a sense of comfort in knowing that they were there. There's just something about that. There's something about that embrace. There's something about, that connection there, and it provides comfort. I go through difficult times. My kids go through difficult times, and as a daddy, I want to reach and hug them. I want to grab hold of them. I want to let them know, look, I love you, and I'm sorry you're having to go through this, and I want you to know I'm here for you. And it's not that I do it from a distance, and I'm 2 blocks away trying to tell them, hey, I'm here for you. I love you, and I want to help you. No, it's that we get close and we grab hold of their hand, or we embrace them, and we try to let them know, look, we're here for you. Spouses go through something. You want to know that you're there for each other. And there's something about just being able to hold hands that provides a comfort that other things don't. I don't know what it is, but I thought, how interesting that what he tells Jacob, whenever Jacob is having issues and having problems, and he doesn't know if he's going to be able to, deal with what all he's got going on, that Jesus says, I will hold your hand. He didn't say, look, I'm going to take care of the problem. He doesn't say, look, I'm going to fix everything for you. He doesn't say, Jacob, I don't know why you're worried about it. I've already told you that you're going to be Israel, and you're going to be the father of that nation. He doesn't go through all the details with Jacob. He just says, Jacob, all you need to know is I'll hold your hand. I'm going to be there. There's sometimes that what I need to hear out of my spouse, whenever it comes to making decisions for the family, or it comes to, trying to do something, is that just for her to tell me, look, I'm in this. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving. I'm here. That's what that does. It provides that comfort. Then I thought about the fact that holding hands provides control. I've seen the memes, and it talks about going out shopping with your wife, and it says she thinks that I'm holding her hand because I love her, but I'm holding her hand because if I'm holding her hand, she can't pick anything up. It keeps her from buying things. But the reality is it's for control. And so, when your kids are little, and I'm sure some of you do this, and you, like we talked about earlier, you grab hold of your kids' hands, and whenever it's a crowded area, you want to make sure that you've got their hand and that you've got a hold on them, that you have a grip. Why? So that somebody else can't come along and snatch them away, so that somebody else can't take them or lure them off. Or if you're like my kids, which Colson's 18 and he still does it, it doesn't take much to distract you, and before you know it, you'll be a mile ahead of them, and you don't know where they're at because they stopped to look at a toy, or they stopped to look at something that was on TV, and they got distracted, and here you are, you kept walking, and you lost sight and you lost contact. Why? Because you weren't holding hands. And so you hold hands. I'll never forget, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. Apparently, there was a group of people that didn't care for it too much and didn't like it, but we used to have a monkey book bag that we put on Patrick, and it had a leash on it. That was the greatest thing ever. I mean, the monkey on your back. I mean, I thought it was great, and we'd put that on him, and it had, a little bit of a leash, and so he could still run around and do what he wanted to do and not feel like he was having to hold our hand everywhere he went, but we still had control and had him on a leash, but it was serving the purpose of holding hands. That's what we were trying to accomplish, is that control. That my kids can't go that direction because I have them. My kids can't run off over there because I have them. My kids can't get caught up in this, or somebody can't take them away because I have them. Are you holding hands with the Lord tonight? Are you able to walk off and do what you want to do and there not be a tug? Because if you can walk off and do what you want to do and live any way you want to live and participate in any sin you want to participate in, and there's not a yank back, somewhere along the lines you let go of his hand. Somewhere along the lines you've lost that connection with him. I mean, that's why we would hold hands with our kids, and they thought, and it was for them, and they thought that it was providing them the comfort, and in essence, maybe it did, but the reality of why I was doing it was so that I could have control of the situation we were in. The bigger party, the supervising party, would have control in that situation. Does he have control in your situations? Are you running loose, running free? Did you let go of his hand somewhere? Thought about holding hands for the crowd. That's what I want you to see tonight, and maybe deal with it a little bit more detail. When I told you earlier, me and my wife, we're holding hands, it shows that we belong together. When you look out and you see two people walking down, through there, and they're holding hands, there's the connection that you realize and you recognize, and you say, they're a couple. They're a pair. They belong together. And, somebody could walk in here tonight, and for the most part, they could pick out who belongs to who. Why? Because you're sitting right beside of each other. Wouldn't be hard to do. And they could look down through here, and that's all. They're a couple, and they're a couple, and they're a couple, and they belong, and group us together. But when you're out in public, and you're out in a big crowd, and you start trying to pair people together, you'll end up, pairing this one with that one, and find out later that they wouldn't, but it's hard to mispair two people that's holding hands. I mean, they've got that connection, and they're together, and their hands are intertwined with each other. It makes a distinction that's impossible to not understand. So whenever we're holding hands with Jesus, so why are we doing it? Well, sure, it provides companionship. It shows that sense of connection. And it is for comfort. I mean, there's something comforting about knowing that God is so interested in you that he is wanting to have that kind of relationship with you. There's something comforting about knowing that no matter how far Jacob had gotten and no matter how wicked Jacob had been, God is telling him at this point, if you'll do what I ask you to do, I will hold your hand through it. And then it's for control. If Jacob is holding on to the hand of God, God can lead him wherever he needs to lead him. He can take him wherever he needs to take him. And he can, turn him any direction he needs to turn him. As long as the one who is in control is the bigger party, you can direct them and control them all you want. You parents have little kids, you can hold their hand and you can drag them around anywhere you want to drag them. They're not going to outpull you. May I remind you, he's a lot bigger than we are. The only way you're going to go in opposite direction than he wants you to go is for you to get away from him. If you'll stay in his hand, he'll guide you, he'll pull you, he'll direct you. But the moment you let go, you can go wherever you want to go, whatever direction you want to go. But the crowd, why would we be holding hands with Jesus? For the purpose of the crowd. For those that are looking. It shows a connection to others. When you're walking in a crowd and you've got your spouse's hand, it shows a connection. It shows a connection. Whenever I'm walking down through a crowd and I'm holding my daughter's hand, it shows a connection. It shows a different connection, but it still shows a connection. Whenever we stand up, and we haven't done it a long time, but we used to circle around the church and hold hands and dismiss in prayer. What were we doing? We were showing a connection. Now, they all show different types of connections, but it is showing that we are connected to one another. It is showing that I'm connected to them. We belong to each other, and there's different relationships there, but the reality is we belong one to another. And whenever we're walking around with Jesus and we're able to hold His hand, and we're walking in such fellowship with Him that people are seeing that picture, it shows a connection. It shows that connection. It's to keep others from holding your hand. I talked about it in the sense that it gives that control, and that whenever I'm in a big crowd, especially whenever my kids were little, I still do it with my daughter. They can, I guess, snatch my boys. I don't know why to let them do it, but if we're in a crowd that I think there's a possibility, I'm going to grab hold of my daughter and I'm going to hang on to her. And, hold her hand. Why? Because that way there's going to at least be a struggle. There's going to at least be a fight. And we're going to battle over being able to keep her. I guess Colson and Patrick, they're on their own. You can take them if you want to, But I'm going to protect it. Why? Because I'm trying to keep her from holding hands with somebody else. And now I'm not talking about in the sense of a boyfriend or girlfriend tonight. I'm talking about in the sense of somebody else that's wanting to hurt her, harm her, destroy her. I'm talking about in the sense that I'm trying to protect her. And so whenever I'm holding her hand, it gives off a signal, and it announces to everybody else that she's got somebody with her that's not going to make this an easy task if I want to grab her. Some of you have let go of Jesus' hand in your walk with Him, and you have made yourself an easy target for Satan. He looks around, and God ain't nowhere around. He can snatch you up and do whatever He wants to with you. Somewhere along the line, you laid your relationship down, you haven't been having your devotions, and you haven't been having your prayer time, and you haven't made church a priority, and you haven't made, gospel music a priority, and at some point, you look back and see that you quit holding hands. And now, somebody else has been able to pull you away. You've heard the story about the older couple riding down the road in the pickup truck, and they looked over and saw a young couple sitting in the car, and he's driving, and she's slid over next to him, right up against him, and he's got one arm on the steering wheel and one arm around her, and the wife said, "You remember when we used to look like that?" He said, "I ain't moved." He's still driving. She had slid over. He hasn't moved. He hasn't changed. He hasn't went somewhere else. He's the same. Yesterday, today, and forever. If the relationship has changed, it's because we've moved. It's because we've slid over. It's because we've gotten away from His grip. Used to be, when my kids were little, it'd be a fight sometimes to hold their hand. And you'd grab hold of the hand, and they'd jerk away from it. And you grab hold of the hand, and they'd, try to jerk it out of your hand. And eventually I'd just quit holding their hand. I'd grab hold of their wrist. I'd get, something I could have hold of. And, you wasn't going to win this battle. I'm holding on to you. You don't understand the purpose behind it. You don't understand the reality behind it. But I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it for a purpose. Here's where our relationship with the Lord's at. If you don't want to hold His hand, He's not going to force it. You don't want to hold His hand, He's not going to make you. His hand's there. And He wants you to want His hand. He wants you to hold His hand. And if you'll hold it, it'll accomplish everything it needs to. It'll provide the companionship, and it'll provide the comfort, and it'll provide the help that it needs to. But if you don't hold it, it's not providing anything. And He's not going to make you. He's not going to force you. You've got to want it. I don't know about you, but there's nothing I want more in this world than to be that close to Him. To be in that kind of relationship to where we are walking hand in hand together. I can tell where some of your relationships are at on Sunday morning. Over the years, I've watched you and I've seen you and I've looked at you and sometimes you come in and you're so close I couldn't slide a sheet of paper between you. Now, some of you sit in the same spot and there's distance between you every Sunday, and so I wouldn't be able to know if you was fighting or not. But, but there's some of you that you sit so close whenever everything's sweet and that I couldn't slide a sheet of paper between you. And then you come in some Sundays. You separate yourself, and it is obvious things haven't been good. And now somebody walks up, oh, you're still sweet, and you put on a smile, and it's still wonderful. But you ain't holding his hand. And he ain't putting his arm around you. That there's not going to be any sign or show of any kind of emotion, any kind of connection. I'm afraid sometimes that's how we get with the Lord. We get rebellious, and we get thinking too much of ourselves or wanting to do our own thing, and we just don't give Him the time of day. We won't reach over and take His hand. And all He's trying to do is keep somebody else from grabbing our hand. If our hand's in His, then the world can't take it. If our hand's in His, then Satan can't mess with it. If our hand's in His, then we're not going to face the temptation and the pull that we will otherwise. I thought about this and be done with it on this. There's times that we hold hands for a purpose. And it allows me, come here, Caleb. If there is a distance between me and Jake that I can't get to, we would make a chain. And there's a gap that needs to be spanned. And so it's going to require Caleb extending out, but it's going to require me holding on so that he doesn't go too far that way. There's a gap that has to be spanned between the Lord and the sinner, the Lord and the world. All right? And that gap is spanned through the Christian. Because it is my job as Caleb to have a hold of Jesus so that I can lean out into the world without ending up back in the world and pull the sinner out of the world. But if Caleb's not holding on to Jesus and he's trying to reach out into the world and pull the sinner out, there's a good chance he's going in rather than the sinner coming out. I'm going to be seated. Does that make sense tonight? We've done that, different things and, different games we've played over the years and, and even in real life situations where, trying to reach out and help somebody do something you couldn't get to them. But if I held on to this person, then I could extend further because this person had a hold of me and wasn't going to let me fall in. And so you could reach out and you could grab them. And that's our relationship with the world. It's not that we're running out in the world and that we're behaving and acting like the world and we're doing what the world's doing to try to pull them in. No, we're still trying to hold on to Jesus and reach out and grab whoever we can to pull them out of the grips of the world, to pull them out of the pit of hell, and to be able to pull them back in. And the only way that we're going to be able to accomplish that is by holding hands with the Lord. If we've let go of Him, where you're going to end up is in the world. You can reach out and you can try to win and you can try to pull them in. But whenever you reach out and you're leaning too far, there's no coming back. And you're going to end up in it. That there's a purpose for holding hands. That there's a reality that comes with that. And it's not just to prove that she's mine. It's not just to show the world that we belong together. It's not to let other people know that she's already taken. Though all those things are said with just that gesture, it is that we might have such a grip and Him have such a grip on us that we can fulfill the task that He has left us to accomplish. And we can reach out into the world and we can pull sinners in, whether they be our children, whether they be our grandchildren, whether they be our co-workers, whether they be some random person that we're trying to witness to on the street. We are trying to pull them in. But if you try to do it without holding His hand, you'll end up getting pulled into the world. And it may not be that you get pulled in to some gross sin that we would think about and get completely out of church. But what will happen is you'll start getting aggravated and you'll start getting bitter and you'll start getting, hard-hearted. And somewhere along the line, you've fallen in rather than pulling them out. So I ask again, are you holding hands with the Lord? I don't remember. I wish I could remember the song, and maybe somebody does, but it was, it was talking about being in heaven and being able to walk hand in hand with the Lord. That's wonderful. I can't wait. We sung about it tonight. I get excited. I can't wait to look my Savior face to face. Be able to see Him and for faith to become reality. What a day that's going to be. But through the eyes of faith, we can hold hands with Him now. Through the eyes of faith, we can look at Him now. I got a feeling, and this is just my craziness, I guess, but I got a feeling if we'll really put faith to the test and really have faith in Christ, when we get to heaven and see Him in reality, it's not going to look much different. We've thought this whole time, it's going to be so different. No. I think through the eyes of faith, we'll see and we'll say, that's what I was doing down there whenever I was exercising proper faith. That's the relationship I had with Him down there whenever I was exercising proper faith. What are you saying? I'm simply saying we can have that kind of relationship with Him now. He can be that real if you'll let Him.